Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Basement Politics with Freddie Vasquez. Tonight, part 2, Unmasking the School Board. The Yonkers School Board. Joining me this evening, I have Mike Solicito, Margaret, and Lainey. Forgive me. It's a lot of technical difficulties tonight. I apologize.
That's okay.
We're rolling with it.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. How you doing this evening?
Good, thank you.
Good.
I wrote the your last names down somewhere, and then I just couldn't. I was eating my McDonald's before I joined you guys, and I don't know where I moved the paper, so forgive me for that. But I'll let you guys introduce yourselves, ladies and gentlemen. I'll start with you, Lainey.
Okay. My name is Lainey Vaughn. My daughter is a junior in the Yonkers public school system. She's been in the school since she was, in Yonkers public school since she was in kindergarten. So I am here to join Mike and talk about the school board and the vaccine mandates.
Thank you. And Mags, why don't you introduce yourself tonight?
Thanks, Freddie. I'm Margaret Madden. I have a son. He's 9 years old, and I come from a family of essential workers. I have two brothers who are both firemen. I have a sister who's a teacher. I have a sister-in-law who's a teacher. So with Lainey, these mandates are killing us,
And we'll get right into that here in a bit. Definitely want to talk about it. Like I was mentioning earlier, I do agree with you all, and we'll talk about that. But I want to introduce the gentleman that's joining us as well. Mike, go ahead.
How you doing?
Good. How you doing?
Mike Solicito, 26-year Yonkers Public Schools teacher. I have two kids in the district. I hit it from both ends. I get it as a teacher, I get it as a parent, and it kind of puts me in a position where there's nothing we can do but, stand up to what's going on and hopefully get everyone to see that, it's not a black and white issue, that we can just cut it and say, this is what it is.
No, it's definitely not a black and white issue, right? It's very complex. There are a lot of emotions involved. There are many factors. This has divided our nation, but we're talking about Yonkers specifically, and we're very divided here in Yonkers as well. I was invited to the school board meeting that took place on October 20th, I believe. That was a Thursday, and that's where I met some of you there, and we spoke. And you all, some of you did went up and spoke to the school board, told them exactly how you felt, and I didn't, I noticed I didn't see very much emotions coming from the school board. They were there. They kind of just looked at you guys, heard what you had to say. And I was also disappointed, as well as I'm sure you were even more disappointed, that they tried to limit your time by reducing it by a minute, right? From 3 minutes to 2 minutes, although that didn't stop you. You went right on through with your speech. You were there determined to get your mission accomplished, and that you did. I thought you all spoke well. You're very impassioned, and you did a great job, and you brought a lot of facts. Mags, I want to start with you. I believe you brought a lot of facts with you, correct? You have some things that you want to discuss a little bit. So I'm going to play your video first, so the folks who didn't get to see the school board meeting, or doesn't know much about it, what's been going on. I just want to kind of let them see what was happening there. So I'll start with you, and I'll allow you to kind of, after the video, discuss what was going on, through your mind there, what it was that you were communicating to them, and your feelings through that process. So I'm going to play video here from school board meeting.
Evidence has determined that masks are ineffective at stopping the spread of disease.
Thank you very much.
And I summarized this a little bit. I didn't realize that it would be cut a third of the time, but growing evidence has determined that masks are ineffective at stopping the spread of disease. What they do is increased average carbon dioxide levels inhaled to 2 to 3 times governmental limit for classroom air quality. They decrease oxygen level and all the things that come along with that, putting our body into fight or flight. Our breathing speeds up, our heart rate speeds up, and it causes anxiety, headaches, drowsiness, impaired cognitive abilities, infections like acne of the face, which then lead to dental, ear, nose, and throat issues, impaired psychomotor abilities and concentration leading to accidents. Accidents are actually what is causing the death of Americans. Over 7,000 children and teens died of unintentional injury in 2019. In the past 19 months, just over 500 children, birth to 17, died with COVID, not of COVID. In most cases, COVID wasn't the cause of death. Quality of speech is diminished, positive effects of smiles and laughter are negated, nonverbal communication and facial expression are all but lost. Seeing a hidden face is associated with danger because our brains have evolved over thousands of years to seek out facial data and assess risk. The results are insecurity, discouragement, numbness, and isolation. The second leading cause of death for ages 10 to 34 is suicide, and numbers keep rising. Just yesterday, organizations representing over 77,000 pediatricians and child psychiatrists declared a national emergency in children's mental health. With masks being normal while kids are trying to develop socially and emotionally, this comes as no surprise. As a precaution against a virus with a 99.999% survival rate for children, we are keeping them in a constant state of fear and sending the message that they simply by breathing, they are not fit to be near others. According to the budget, Yonkers Public Schools will receive $74.5 million in federal grants as a payoff. Yet recorded meetings show board members don't find masks necessary for themselves. Who is the money actually helping for? It takes courage to look at evidence that proves we were wrong. That is the behavior that we want to model for our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
I was like getting all excited over here. I was like, yeah.
No, definitely. It was definitely great. You brought a lot of information there in the short amount of time that you were given, right? And you heard the bell there going off, but you kept on talking. It didn't let you stop you. It didn't distract you, and you were on point. And I just want to touch on a couple things. But first, I want to just give us, those watching and and me and myself as well. What was going through your mind? What was it that exactly, just give us a little bit recap of what you said there and how you felt about saying it.
Yeah, so basically my whole issue with this is the masks don't work. They don't work. If we look at the science behind it, the masks do not work. The only time that, the CDC is using evidence that hand washing and masks and all these things, if we do all these things, then it'll stop the spread of coronavirus. And they're using evidence saying, oh, well, we put a mandate in place, and then the numbers started to go down, so the mask must be working, right? And that's not science. That's not science. And if you actually look at what the masks are actually doing, the virus is spreading through aerosols, right? And they're small enough to go through the pores of the mask. So the mask is doing absolutely nothing. What it is doing is it's hampering our immune system. It's putting our body into a constant state of fight or flight. We're not breathing enough oxygen in, and the oxygen needs to clean our blood, and then it's causing all these other problems physically, that our heart rate speeds up and our pulse speeds up, and then it's just a constant cycle. But really, my biggest concern, so it's really making us more susceptible to get sick. And my biggest concern is mentally and psychologically what it's doing to these kids. These kids, to give adults a little bit of peace of mind, a superficial putting on a mask. Now I feel a little safer that I'm not going to get sick, when it's really not doing anything, but it makes some adults feel safe. To do that, to give adults peace of mind and scare the crap out of these kids. These kids are looking at people. They can't see their face. They don't know who's coming near them. We know from scary movies, that you put a mask on and that scares people. It automatically we go into all this time that we've spent looking at faces to assess danger, and masks are just automatically associated with danger for us. And we're telling these kids that if you're breathing near people, then you're going to get them sick and you're going to kill them. Like, what is that doing to them? You know, the stuff that I grew up with, that I'm not enough. And so they're growing up with that on top of, you can't even breathe. When you're doing something wrong just because you're breathing. You know, it's insanity. To give adults peace of mind and scaring the crap out of these kids is the opposite of the society that I want to live in, you know?
Absolutely, and it definitely is putting fear in the kids. And it's not just kids. I think the goal of this all is fear, creating fear, fear mongering. But yes, we're talking about the students, but also the adults and staff that work at the schools, and that's what a lot of them are being. That's what's motivating a lot of people who are in support of the vaccine mandates, who are rushing off to take a vaccine that has really yet to have any real studies that we can truly rely on. The fear. Fear, fear, fear. I agree. Also, I just want to touch on a couple of things that you mentioned in your speech to the school board: lack of nonverbal communication, isolation, the suicide rate, right? And that's a big one. That's been talked about since the very beginning of the shutdown. The increase in suicide among particularly young people. Also, the abuse that many suffered, the increase in child abuse of being home and stuff. But and then
Substance abuses,
substance,
overdoses.
right? And absolutely, and then the money. Tell me about that. What did you mean when you brought up the money? You mentioned something about the Yonkers Public School receiving money. What was that that you mentioned there?
So everybody knows there was a ton of federal money handed out last year, and it was the CARES Act. And Yonkers Public Schools alone, just based on the budget, I've seen numbers that are a lot higher than this, but just looking at the Yonkers Public School published budget, it's $74 million of these federal grants. And a condition of the federal grants is that you have to follow the CDC guidelines. And the CDC says they want kids masks and they want everybody getting this vaccine, regardless of whether or not it's approved, regardless of whether or not they finish studying it. But, we were talking earlier before the show about all this, people are getting their information from memes. The CDC, you can just look on their website
Right.
for information. Months ago, they published a study that they had a concert or something in Massachusetts, and everybody went in and you had to either have the vaccine or have a negative test within 24 hours. And COVID broke out in the concert, and 74% of the people that had it were vaccinated, and we know that the unvaccinated people didn't have it because they had a negative test,
Right.
So you don't even have to go far. You can use the CDC, which, I don't trust the CDC's website. I think we're getting a lot of misinformation from them, but you can just look to them for the real, for other information that proves that what we're doing is not okay,
Right. And so basically, essentially, is the what you're saying there is quite possibly that the Yonkers Public School and the school board is more concerned with the money that the federal government is throwing at them in order to implement these mandates and these new rules and regulations, and they just want to take the money, right? Rather than
I think so. So I went to the first PTA meeting of the year, and I spoke to the superintendent, and he came in, and the speeches were all about, oh, look what we did. We got new computers, we got this, and we got that. And I said, that's fantastic. I'm great. I'm happy that you have that stuff. But if we don't take care of the kids' basic human needs first and let them breathe, the computers aren't doing anything for them. We need to satisfy the basic human needs first. And the superintendent said to me, and I started telling him some of the research that's coming out about how bad the masks are for us physically. And he told me, oh, I didn't know any of those things. I didn't do my research, right? And I said, how can you say that all the kids need to be masks when you don't know what it's doing to them, right? And he's boasting that he's happy that all the high school kids are walking around outside with no masks on. And I said, that's not the kids. That we don't want soldiers that blindly listen to rules. We want people saying, does this feel right? Does this sound right? This is a scary world, and we need to teach these kids to critically think, not just take orders and walk around like zombies, And what I was trying to get across in the end of the speech was, listen, a lot of us fell for this, right? Like a lot of us put the mask on, we were scared. But now after doing the research, after almost 2 years of this craziness, now we have to kind of say, wait, what's going on here? And it's okay. It's okay to say, it takes courage to say, you know what, that was a bad decision. You know what, we should change course on this. I didn't do my due diligence. Let's fix this. And that's the kind of students that we're hoping, that's the kind of generation we're hoping to bring up, not these people that are just blindly following orders,
Absolutely. And it's, I'm not a psychology major, right? I didn't go to school and get my degree in the medical field or anything like that, but it's conditioning, right? I've read on Pavlov conditioning with the bell and the dog. And it seems like that's what's being done with students, conditioning the future generation of citizens to follow whatever it is. Right. This is what you're
literally
told.
Putting something over their mouth.
Right. Absolutely. I will, Mags, I'm sorry. I'll get back to you. I wanted to play the next video. Lainey, I'm going to play your video. So we'll watch Lainey's video, then we'll get back to you and talk about that.
I was here in September to voice my opposition to the student-athlete vaccination protocols. I'm here again to ask, why is this still a policy? This is getting ridiculous. The New York State Public High School Athletic Association has not recommended or required students to be vaccinated to participate in sports, high risk or low risk. Neither has Section 1 or the Olympics for that matter. Students and parents, not you, should have the choice to be vaccinated or be tested weekly. I can only wonder what lunacy you are planning for winter and spring sports. What about pep rallies? I heard you're canceling these as well. Every stadium or venue in the country is packed with thousands of people every night of the week. Thousands! And not everyone is vaccinated or masks. Why can't our kids have pep rallies? Even neighboring districts are having homecoming parades, pep rallies, homecoming dances, and full occupancy of spectators at sporting events. This board is making decisions that don't make sense. They definitely do not follow science or statistics. I am also appalled about what you decided to do in regards to the college fair. Only vaccinated students may attend. You made this decision without thinking about any consequences that would affect our juniors and seniors. We have hundreds of kids walking these hallways every day, and they need to be vaccinated to attend a college fair? What are you talking about? Again, absolutely no logical explanation at all. You are robbing. You are absolutely robbing. Every single one of you who make these decisions are robbing these kids of their right to better their future by not allowing them to attend events like this. But I got to tell you something, your policies don't work, because we went to the college fair, and I would never let my child miss something that would be beneficial for her future. Do something, they're going to figure out a way to do the opposite. And you are okay with hundreds of people showing up to your open houses for every district, every school in the district without having vaccination? It makes no sense. Just stop it already and let these kids have a normal school year. The parents, teachers, and students in this district are fed up and waking up to your nonsense. We will not back down. We will make sure all of you are held accountable for what you are taking away from our kids. You should all be ashamed of yourselves. And by the way, your policies, protocols, mandates, or whatever you want to call them, are not laws.
Power.
Well, I was a little angry.
I
Sorry
have to
about
give
that.
you extra round of applause. That was very well said, and you showed a lot of passion. You showed a lot of emotion, but the right emotion, right? The right emotion. You weren't angry, disrespectful in that way, but you definitely were letting them know that you meant what you were saying, and you were tired of this. So explain to me and just give me a little bit of what was going through your mind.
Yeah, well, first of all, I have a problem articulating anything unless I'm like really angry. So that helped me a little bit. I wanted to go there and just discuss the reason why, the vaccine mandates were happening for the student athletes. My daughter is on the swim team. First of all, let me just say this before anybody, I just want to let you know I'm vaccinated. My daughter is not vaccinated, and it's her choice not to be vaccinated. So, and I'm not pushing her to be vaccinated. When they came out with the school having a mandate for vaccinations for all the sports, I went back to the Board of Ed and argued the fact that the swim team, shouldn't be vaccinated or shouldn't have to be, considering they're swimming in chlorine. They're not near each other really at all. They're in a pool. So it's considered a low-risk sport. So therefore, they shouldn't have to be vaccinated. Testing weekly, yes, that's fine. I don't mind doing that, but they shouldn't have to be vaccinated. About a week after that first board meeting in September, they decided to pull it back and say that swimming was okay because it was a low-risk sport. So I was happy about that, but it didn't include all the other sports that would be considered low risk. I mean, we have volleyball, soccer. Those are low risk sports for sure. I mean, I don't even understand why there's a vaccine mandate for those. I just think having a vaccine mandate to participate in sports is ridiculous because there's so many other districts in Westchester County that don't, need a vaccine. And the New York State physical education for public schools hasn't even mandated it, or Section 1. So why not just let them have the choice? Either you're vaccinated, and if you're not, then you get tested weekly. I mean, it should be one or the other, and it shouldn't be both. But right now, it's either you're vaccinated and you get tested weekly, which makes no sense.
Yeah, and I just want to touch on that. It seems like that the reason why they mandated student athletes, just going off the point that you made, why not allow them also to get the weekly testing as opposed to have to be mandated? Because many students have been playing for years. They're relying possibly on scholarships.
Right.
This is something that they love. So they know that's kind of a little carrot that they wave, in front of them. If you don't get vaccinated, then we're going to take this away from you.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
I mean, there are some girls that I think are on the volleyball team that, they're reliant on getting a scholarship, and now they can't play on the volleyball team because they're not vaccinated. I mean, it's absurd. Right. It's absurd. Right. And meanwhile, like people in the Board of Ed, I think that if they're not vaccinated, they have to be tested weekly. So why not make that district wide? Why can't the kids do that too?
Right. And what's the difference about the sports, right? I'm not sure why. And again, my opinion is just that it's something that they value. Like as you mentioned, there are volleyball players who are looking to get scholarships. Now they have to choose. Do I get a scholarship or do I get vaccinated? And get vaccinated, or don't get a scholarship and don't get the vaccination because I don't want to take a chance of dying. I played a video on part one last week of a student athlete he was actually in college, a student athlete in college who was in the hospital while recording this video, warning other student athletes and parents and just trying to get the information out that he was now in the hospital suffering myocarditis because of the vaccination. And he was a perfectly healthy student athlete, throughout high school. And now he's unable to play the remainder of his season and quite possibly play sports at all because of this. And he just wished that he knew the information. He said he didn't know that myocarditis was one of the side effects. And I wonder how many people do not know what are the actual side effects, right? Because they're not showing many of the videos of parents and students that they're putting out there. I want to applaud you for still going to the college fair. I thought that that was very bold and brave, and I thought that's something that I would do, so I can appreciate that.
I wasn't gonna let her not go to the college fair. I mean, that's ridiculous. So
it sure is.
I figured out a way to get in there, without having to show proof of vaccination. I mean, it's insane to me that they are keeping our kids back from doing things that are going to help their future and possibly graduate, go to a great college, whatever. But they're not allowing them to participate in things like this because they're not vaccinated. I mean, it's insane. And meanwhile, they're all walking around the school, in the hallways with masks on and everything. What's the difference if they go to a college fair and they're not vaccinated? You still had to wear a mask and you still had to have your temperature taken. So it was just like they were going to school.
Again, it just seems like it's something that they are using as a carrot, right? We take this away if you don't get vaccinated. Now we're putting they're leaving people with the choice. They're making people have to make that choice, either this or the vaccination,
Right.
right? So I think that again, that's what it's all about. Sports, the college fair is very important. Very important. College, is very important for many students who have been working hard for the past 4 years just to make sure that they have the right GPA to get into the college that they want to. And here we are now in a situation where now they have to make a choice. I thought that was brave. I like that. That was very dope that you still went. I would have done that. I heard you when I was at the meeting and you said that, and I just applauded you for that as well. I thought that was awesome.
Yeah, you can't really tell people not to do something
Sure.
because they're gonna figure out a way to do it.
Absolutely, especially something that important, especially
Yeah.
as a parent, and it has to do with your child. I'm a parent of two. I have two children also in the Yonkers Public School. I have a 5 and a 10-year-old, so I also have skin in the game. I also am concerned about the mask and the potential for full vaccination vaccine mandates, where they will require everyone to have to get it, regardless of of what, it doesn't matter. I also want to just really quick, you mentioned something about other school districts not having similar mandates or restrictions. Tell me a little bit about that.
So I know similar school districts are having, now I'm not 100% sure as far as the mandates go, but as far as doing pep rallies, homecoming dances, stuff like that, all other districts, I mean, I know Tuckahoe is doing, pep rallies, homecoming. I know because I was there. Football games. I was up in White Plains at a football game and it was a packed stadium. So I don't really understand why Yonkers is not doing the same if other districts are doing that. I mean, we play against teams that don't have vaccine mandates. Like I think some teams up north, like Nyack, they're not mandating that their student athletes get vaccinated.
Really?
It's either and we're competing against these teams and they're not vaccinated. It doesn't make sense.
Doesn't make sense at all. Absolutely not. I have an idea, quite possibly, because maybe those other school districts you mentioned, Tuckahoe, Bronxville, I'm sure like Scarsdale, White Plains, they don't need the money as much as Yonkers, right? And I guess when you see that amount of money, people start salivating, right? And these schools also have parents who have many times, high price attorneys. They have, they're very involved. Not to, I'm not trying to compare in that way to say, but I'm just, they will go the distance. They will spend the money to fight the school district. So I think that they have a little bit more caution in when they make their decisions, and they're not jumping quick for the money, right? Because they don't necessarily need the money. That's not usually, somewhere like Scarsdale or Bronxville, a problem there.
Right.
So yes, I tell you, you just kind of connect the dots, right? It's all about connecting the dots. Mike Solicito, I'm sorry, is that
Yes.
right?
No, perfect.
How you doing, sir? Thank you for waiting patiently. I had to let
No,
the
not a
ladies
problem.
go first. I'm
Ladies
sure you
first.
can understand. A perfect gentleman you are. So I just want to introduce you. You're an actual staff member, so it's
Yes,
a
I
bit
am.
different with you. You work as a special education teacher. Do you mind saying which school do you work at? Is that a
Well, I work at Yonkers Montessori Academy.
okay?
I have to say, I love teaching.
Yeah.
Teaching. Love the school. Love the staff. Everything was great for like so many years. There was such a connection with the kids. We did fun things. We did barbecues. We did Thanksgivings. We did all these things that brought the kids in. They wanted to come to school. They, loved being around their teachers. And then all of a sudden, boom, everything changed. And that's basically why when they decided they were going to mandate this for the sports, I saw all my kids and how they are. Like sports means so much to them because, academics aren't their strong point a lot of times. And a lot of them start thinking about college and pushing the academics so they can stay on a sports team. And it gives them that, that looming thing over their head, like, hey, if I continue this and I continue with my grades and keep them up the best I can, hey, maybe I can go to college on some kind of a sports scholarship. And then all of a sudden, that wasn't a reality anymore. And it was heartbreaking to see that, all of a sudden where children are left behind when The whole thing for years was no child left behind, no child left behind. And now kids are going to get left behind. And it just, nothing made sense to me. And as much as I love the job and as much as I love what I do, you know, I look at my kids and say, well, now is the time when, you know, not only for my students, but my own kids, I don't want them to go into this world with, you know, not having the things that, you know, like we had when we were kids, all the opportunities, you know, everything is just getting taken away in a heartbeat.
Absolutely, I agree. And these are just touching on what you just mentioned about the world that our kids are going to live in, right? I have a 5 again and 10-year-old. They're very young. They still have a lot of life left. What is our society? What is our schools going to look like in you know, in 10 years? 15 years, 20 years from now. That's a scary thought. Mike, I just want to play your video real quick,
Yeah, go ahead.
and then we'll get back to you.
My name is Mike Solicito. I'm 26-year, dedicated and proud Yonkers teacher. But I stand here today not only as a teacher, but a parent. A parent like many of you whose child was affected by recent mandates imposed by the district. Mandates which have been affecting the social and emotional well-being of our children. We're at a fork in the road of human history. The COVID pandemic has brought with it confusion, uncertainty, fear. As leaders, we are tasked with reducing fear and anxiety in our children. By backing them in a corner, we are doing the exact opposite. The lockdowns and remote learning have already caused a huge rise in depression among teenagers across the nation. By forcing students to make potentially life-changing decisions, not out of education and choice, but out of fear of losing the essential components of their school experience, we are only exacerbating this condition. With the available info on vaccines changing on a daily basis, and the millions of dollars we've been given for weekly saliva testing, there is no reason to say, get vaccinated or lose your ability to play sports, or you can't explore your college options because you're not vaccinated. As both an educator and a parent, these ideas sound like the opposite of everything we stand for. The antithesis of how we teach our children, and not what I know from the Yonkers Public Schools. Aren't we supposed to support and aid our children on their track towards college? Doesn't imposing these mandates do the exact opposite of helping them get into college? Our decisions must be made without sacrificing the integrity of who we are as educators. When we don't put the needs of our children first, there are always unintended consequences. In this case, it is that we are leaving a portion of our children behind. What happened to No Child Left Behind? Isn't excluding a child discriminatory? Aren't we segregating an entire population of children? Do we all not want our children's lives to be as normal as possible? The Yonkers public school system should not be considering, nevertheless already implementing mandates that only consider a select population of our kids. When the dust settles, these kids are going to leave school if they don't have sports and they don't have anything else. Just trying to speed it up here. Do we tell our kids that they are not as important as the vaccinated peers? Do we change the phrase to only non-vaccinated children left behind? Do we remove the dignity for all students policy off the Yonkers Public Schools website? Being these decisions are not providing dignity to all our students? Do we teach our kids to question and stand up for themselves and others? Isn't that what today is? It's Unity Day, right? Yeah. Unity Day? I'm going to end this off because I have so much to say here. But we're teachers, we're administrators, we're students, we're parents, we're family, friends, and supporters. We are Yonkers Public Schools. We stand for truth, justice, and the American way of life. Dignity for all students, and definitely no child left behind.
Yeah, I had so much more.
Mike, that was great. You know what I loved about it? You posed questions to them, right? That hopefully would get them to think about what they were doing. Think about some of the points that you were making. I loved it. It was great in the way that you presented the speech. And you know, I hope that it may have gotten through to some of them. But I thought it was great. You did an excellent job, very well thought out. I just want to touch on some of the things, the points that you made. One of the biggest points you made is the inequality between unvaccinated and vaccinated children. Tell me about that.
I saw it firsthand with my daughter. She had a rough year last year. Middle school is really rough. I've done middle school for my whole career, and it's transitional phase for kids. They don't, they like somebody 1 minute, they don't like somebody the next minute. Cliques, form, and it's hard. Once they get to high school, all that goes out the window. But I saw my daughter go from being, popular enough to have a nice group of friends to, when they started getting vaccinated, and, we didn't want our child vaccinated. We're not ready for that. I've done my research, and, I'm a research guy. I wasn't ready for, possibly putting something in her that's going to affect her down the road. Even that whole idea about infertility, like, I want grandchildren one day. So she had a rough year, and she said, "Dad, I really want to get into volleyball. I want to join the volleyball team." So I was for it 100%. I was like, you know what? That's great. The camaraderie of the team. And so we get a phone call. We're out at dinner with friends, and we get a text from the coach. And she apologized, very sincere, said, "I'm sorry, you're not going to be able to join the team because you're not vaccinated." Now, she's not even 15. She's not even 15. And, I saw how upset she was.
Wow.
As a parent, you're like, well, that's not fair. And, yet your head is going in 100 different directions. Like, what am I going to do to help my kid? So, I went in, pleaded the case. You start talking about, what about the testing? What about this? I'm sorry. Well, these are the rules right now. Broke it to her. She was upset. Then they came back to me, we're changing it now. She can't come on. She's got to get tested weekly. So she was like, okay. But then they told her, well, it could go back the other direction again. So she talked to me in private and said, "Dad, I don't want this emotional roller coaster. I just wanted to make friends and be on a team and have the camaraderie." And it all got taken away from her. And it made it so she was starting the year now with heartbreak instead of excitement. And as a parent, I internalized that. And I didn't know what to say to her. And then I looked at my students. The school year starts, and you start talking to your kids, and you realize that my daughter wasn't the only one in that place. There were a lot of kids that were like, "Oh, I can't be on the team this year." Kids I knew that have been on teams for years. They were like sports stars. And now, because they were unvaccinated, they couldn't be on the team. Meanwhile, we have all this testing. Test them. Test them, test them weekly, and let them go on a team. I don't understand what the problem was. And that's what fueled that anger. And I think that's what, partially started me to start forming this stuff. And I met, these great ladies and the rest of the people that we were associated with. I mean, powerful, passionate people that, are really pushing this in the right direction. We're all, we're not crazy people running around, spouting out stuff we find in memes. Right. Where people who we've used the scientific method of research and, looking at data and, assessing that data, all the stuff we were taught to teach our kids. Now we're using and finding out, well, all this is wrong. Everything is wrong. So how do you sit back as an educator and say, well, I can't do anything. I'm letting not only my own children down, I'm letting all of these kids down. And that's not why I got into this job.
Right. Absolutely. And that's why I'm doing this. Right. And I asked you, Mike, what school you worked at or you were, located at, because my wife is an assistant principal. Right. And she's an assistant principal at YMA, Yonkers Montessori Academy. Miss Vasquez. I'm not sure if you're familiar with Miss Vasquez.
That's across the hall from me.
Yes. That's my wife. We've been together 23 years. When she informed me that she was getting the job there, I was very happy. I was happy because she wasn't going to be in the Bronx anymore. I had concerns. One of my things, and I'm not crazy either, Mike. I like to think that I'm somewhat sane. I have some sense. I have a master's. I have an MBA. So I think I know a little bit. I've done a lot of research, schoolwork and stuff and papers I've written. And so I began to get concerned with where our society was heading. And I'm like, honey, it hits the fan. You're all the way in the Bronx. How are we going to meet up? So when she said she was going to be in Yonkers, I was excited. So you're not far. We can escape out of New York, right? Escape from New York like Kurt Russell. So then also I was happy because they had to get vaccinated or they were going to lose their jobs. They didn't have the option of getting tested. All right. So that also made me happy that she was having at least the option to get tested. But I was concerned. I was very much concerned if Yonkers was going to go into all vaccination for no testing. You have to get vaccinated or you're going to lose your job. And I think that's what we have concerns. I think we all share that concern as well. And I think if people pay attention, and I was mentioning to you about the school board meetings and the minutes and reading the minutes and seeing what's going on, you can see things from going back from January and maybe even further back of policies and contracts that have been awarded that suggest that they're going in that direction. And that's a scary thought because that means either I'm going to have to get my children, your children, yourselves vaccinated in order to keep them in the schools, keep your job, and risk them dying, or what? Pull them out of school, homeschool them. How do I do that? Although I will make it happen. I'd rather do it, but it's going to turn my life upside down. It's going to turn their lives upside down, right? I can handle it. I'm an adult. Children, this is totally new to them. They're not sure what's going on. They're seeing parents worried. My kids see my worry. They see it. They hear me speaking with my wife. And it's really just traumatizing our children, and it's traumatizing us as adults because as adults, we too can be traumatized, right? And the school board, I think, owes their their obligation to the students, staff, and the residents of the city of Yonkers. I understand that the federal government is looking to mandate things. However, as you mentioned, Mike, even the Westchester County Athletics or the local athletics policy making agency or whatever for the schools hasn't mandated then or hasn't required that. However, they're still doing it. They're still implementing it. Why? Because of the money. Is that what it is? So I appreciate you guys coming on, and I'm going to continue. We're going to continue talking. I just wanted to kind of share my a little bit about me, Mike, because you mentioned being a teacher at YMA and in the special education as a special education teacher, which my wife is the vice president. I'm sorry, vice president. I wish you were the vice principal of the the special education for the special education students. So that's why I want to mention it, and I like to put that out there. And again, I have skin in the game, not only my children, my wives. And guess what? Some people have said, hey, Freddie, you sure you want to go there? You sure you want to go there and have this podcast? Why? Because my wife works at the school. Should I be concerned? Well, fire her. Do me a favor. And I'll keep her with me safe and sound. But, again, I'm not concerned with that. I want to get the message out. This is very important. And the stuff that you've mentioned, all three of you have mentioned, is very important and it needs to get out. And I'm 100% for that. I support you and I'm working to get it out. So I want to go back to you, Mags, Margaret, Madden. Tell me a little bit about some of the research that you've done. I know you've been doing some research, right? It was, I think Lainey told me you had some facts that you wanted to speak on. So give me some of the research. What have you been finding, really some of the real stuff that we should be concerned about?
In terms of what? In terms of
the vaccination and of the mask or any of the dangers with wearing the mask, with getting vaccinated. Some of the I believe you have. Who was it? Was it Lainey or someone had some research?
Well, Margaret had been doing some digging as far as the public schools.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. Okay, yes, that part. That's what I'm asking about. Tell us about that.
So I've done a lot of research on the masks, only because I only started doing the research when this started being pushed so hard, because from the beginning, it just seems like common sense to me that if I cover my son's nose and mouth all day long, he's going to have problems breathing. Like it's common sense, right? But in order to address this and ask the questions, I felt like I had to. For me, it's a no-brainer. I'm not going to cover my son's mouth and nose and smother him all day long just to be able to get an education. But yeah, when you actually do start looking into the research, not only do they not do anything, they're really hurting us. They're really hurting us. They're hampering our immune systems. I don't know much about the actual disease. I know the statistics of who's dying from it, or more who's not dying from it. The CDC makes it very difficult to actually put a number on the number of kids that are dying from it, because they changed the way that deaths are classified right before this. When this happened, they changed the way deaths are classified. So instead of saying, if somebody went in with heart disease and then they got a cold and their immune system was just so beat down that they couldn't fight off the cold, normally you would list it as, they died of heart disease. But the CDC explicitly put out orders that if they died with COVID, no matter what they had, heart disease, COPD, anything else, it's a COVID death, right? And so when you look on the CDC's website and you try to figure out, okay, how many kids are actually dying of this, you cannot get that information. Right. They put in, these are the kids that died with or presumed to have COVID when they died. And then you can find information about all the other things that they had, that they were obese, that they had this, that they had that. And then you can kind of get it. I kind of got the information of who actually died, how many kids actually died of COVID. But like I said, they make it difficult. So I had to export stuff from their website into an Excel spreadsheet and then filter out all the other ages, all the other everything else. And when I did all that, I did it twice. When I did all that, it looks to be somewhere between 100 and 150. Right. And every single one of these kids had something else. They were either obese, which are more at risk for everything. And these lockdowns have made so many more obese kids, because they're sitting inside, not allowed to go out. But so like for me, it just the vaccines, I haven't done research. Right. I trust my body. I trust my son's body. We're healthy. We eat good food. We get exercise,
I want to just touch on what you were saying there regarding the information and the way that the death certificates were being issued, right? So I mentioned this on part one, and according to the CDC, 94% of the people that died with COVID, or people who had COVID listed on their death certificates, on average, had 3 other causes of death listed as well. And in fact, if someone died and then they tested them post-death and they tested positive for COVID, they labeled that as a COVID death.
They didn't even need a test. They didn't need a test. If they had a symptom of COVID, which includes a runny nose,
right,
they could presume that they had COVID and list it as a COVID death.
So they I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say one other funny thing that I found. I looked, Westchester County puts out information. And so they put out information of flu deaths every year, right? And in January of 2019, there were 3,000 flu deaths. And in January of 2020, there were 3,000 flu deaths. And in January of 2021, there were 8 flu deaths. Like, did COVID eat the flu? Like, what happened there?
And that's a point that a lot of people have made, that many other causes of death have just vanished, altogether. But also, and I've mentioned this, if you look at the total number of deaths for the year, it hasn't really changed much. 2020 wasn't significantly higher or that much higher than 2019. And in fact, 2018 was actually higher than 2020. So there's no real difference. There's nothing that suggests we're actually going through a pandemic, other than what CNN, I have to say the Democrats and a lot of the Republicans are saying. And I'm not a party person. And then what our elected officials, what our school boards are saying, and what they're telling us is the truth, right? And we're supposed to rely on it. And now we're being forced to follow these mandates and these rules, these regulations, or we are going to have consequences, right? We're going to get punished. Right. We're going to get slapped on the wrist. You can't go to the college fair. You can't play sports. You can't go to the homecoming. No pep rallies. In fact, we don't even want you in school, really. We want you just to fail, is what it seems like. Lainey, I want to just ask you, you have a concern? Do you have, and I believe you do, but tell me a little bit about that concern that the schools will go to a full mandate, meaning all students and staff will have to get vaccinated.
I'm almost 100% positive that's probably going to happen either before the end of this year or 100% the beginning of next year. our unelected governor came out today and said that it's still on the table as far as mandating all New York State public schools to have their students be vaccinated. I do think it's right around the corner. And listen, I'm not stupid. I know my daughter in 2 years, she's going to be going to college, and I'm sure most of the colleges are going to make, her be vaccinated. I know that. But by that time, maybe she'll decide that it is something that she wants to do. But the fact that she's doesn't want to get it right now, I'm not going to force her to do something like that. And I feel like that's the direction that we're going. And if she's still at, in her senior year, she still decides that she doesn't want to get it. I mean, I'll figure something else out. I'll homeschool her. I mean, if she doesn't want to get it, I'm not going to force her to get it. But unfortunately, that seems to be where we're going.
Right. And I agree. And I'm concerned with that. And, just touching, going back to the governor, one thing that people should notice is that all of a sudden, Cuomo was out. He was forced to resign over the allegations. Was it over the allegations? I'm sure that wasn't new to anyone up in Albany, right? Or was it because she is more hardcore than Cuomo was going to be? Cuomo actually was not mandating the mask. He was saying he recommends them. Maybe we suggest that you wear them, but he was not mandating the mask in the schools. He's out. Now the sex allegations or the stuff comes back up, and he has to resign now. And this woman, I'm not sure how to say her name. She's in now. And then within 2 weeks of being in office, she implements the mandates.
Well, she's trying to make a name for herself, right? I mean, that's just what she's trying to do.
Well, that's what they probably look for, someone who's looking to make a name for themselves and are willing to do their bidding, to do whatever it is that they want, and they're willing to push forward. And I don't think Cuomo was with it all the way, and I think that's why he was gone. The allegations and all that stuff wasn't new. They all knew about that, I'm sure, and many of them probably partook in it that are still there. Mike, thank you for joining us again. I'm sorry, I know we lost you there. I just wanted to kind of go back to you. I was talking to I asked Lainey about the mandates. And as a teacher now, you are a staff member. If they're mandated, this means you can lose your job if you refuse to get the vaccination. Lainey has a child in the public schools. She can pull her out, go homeschool her. It's not going to be easy, but she's not going to lose an income. You could potentially lose an income if that's what's mandated. How do you feel about that? Tell me a little bit of your
I got to be honest with you. Probably the thing that I most fear. And I don't, there's not really much that hits me hard. But when it comes to my family and thinking about what would I do and how would I be able to support them? My wife doesn't work. She's stayed home to take care of the kids and, she does a little babysitting, but nothing major. I don't know what I would do. I don't want to get this. I don't, God forbid I put a vaccine in my arm and, 2 years later, now I leave them with nothing. They're not putting anybody in a good place. It's between a rock and a hard place here. And this is why we're pushing so hard to say, hey, we got testing. You got the tests. We can go to the doctor. We can get a test weekly. That should be enough. There's no reason to push it past that. You shouldn't, all those New York City teachers shouldn't be out. They shouldn't be there not collecting salaries. Like, what? How do you care about your people?
Right.
You don't care about your people when you leave them out there on the street. I don't know how those people are surviving.
Right.
And here we are. We may be in the same spot. And if we are, I just hope and pray that the whole city rallies behind, because when you have no kids in the school and you have no teachers in those classrooms, you don't have a school district.
Right.
And that is the only hope that we have, is that they know and they see when we all come out that, you're not going to be able to do that. And we're just going to go, okay.
Right.
It's not okay.
It's
we
right.
dedicated all these years. 26 years, I gave kids clothes. I gave them food, went to graduations, I know a lot of teachers that are like that. You give your heart and your soul, and then the district could just say one day, oh, and for public safety, we have to cut you if you don't get the vaccine. Sorry, 26 years means nothing.
Right. And that's what's incredible about it. Well, that's what's unbelievable about it. That's what just is scaring me the most about it. And we were mentioning this earlier. We were talking before we got on live. It seems like it doesn't matter what the data suggests. It doesn't matter what the people want. They're going to do this anyway, and you have to accept it. That's what it seems like. I just want to read a comment here from Paula. Keep fighting. This is wrong in so many ways. If we don't stand strong, our freedom will be lost on many levels. That is a fact. And we already are losing our freedoms on so many levels. I've been put in Facebook jail, whatever you call it. I've had to create multiple pages just to keep my podcast going. They told me I was banned for 3 days. I've been now banned for 2 weeks. I don't know what happened to the 3 days. My other one is 30 days. I'm down to about 9 days. So the censorship is, it's obvious, it's apparent. And what's more concerning is that they're censoring information that I think is important for people to get out there. So that's why I'm trying to do this podcast. I'm glad that we're speaking. I'm glad that I met you folks because I've been thinking about this. And I think it's important for the Yonkers Public School District to know, and the government here in the city of Yonkers, that there are many people that are not going to just stand for this. They're not going to accept it, and they're going to stand up. And we're going to march. I'll be with you guys there in the front row, the front line, marching to City Hall if that is the case. So you got me, you got my support, and hopefully that doesn't come to that, and we can discuss this. Lainey, I want to go back to you. Your daughter being in the school. Just telling me a little bit about how she's been, how she's been feeling, how's the year been for her.
So far so good. I mean, luckily my daughter is me, but in like a 16-year-old body. So she's very tough, and she doesn't really let things get to her, and she lets things roll off her back. I mean, it really hasn't affected her at all. The fact that she's unvaccinated. It's not like people go around to her and they're like, "Oh, you're unvaccinated," because I think most of her friends are unvaccinated. So, as far as she's concerned, it's kind of rolling off of her back. It doesn't really matter to her. I think it's affecting me more than it's affecting her. I tend to get super angry and passionate about stuff when I believe in it. So this has kind of taken over my life the last couple of weeks. But, I mean, I'll stand there, even if she's allowed to swim, which she is now, it still doesn't make a difference. There's all these other sports, and we don't even know what they're going to do with winter and spring sports. I mean, God only knows what they're going to do with those sports. So I will continue to fight for all the kids. It's not just her that I'm fighting for. I'm fighting for all the kids in sports. I mean, I think sports is huge. When I was in high school, when I was in high school, I played sports my entire high school career. It was just something I did. And I played winter, spring sports and fall all the time. And I think it's really important that they are allowed to do this, especially with college and stuff like that. We spoke on that. So, I'm not just fighting for her. I'm fighting for all the other, kids that can't participate now. One of them being my niece, who finally, after years of not wanting to do a sport, she went to Saunders. She's been in Saunders for 2 years now, finally decided that she was going to try out for cheerleading. And now she can't because she's not vaccinated.
Unbelievable.
After all these years, she's a sophomore now, and she's, wants to try out for her team, and she can't. So
I think that's an important distinction to make. We're not just fighting for our kids. We're not just fighting for our jobs. We're not just fighting for the kids. We're fighting for everybody. And what you were saying before, Freddie, is once we give up control of our body, that's it. It's gone. And we're not anti-vax. We're not anti-mask. If you want to wear a mask, if it makes you feel more comfortable, if you want to get the vaccine for whatever reasons you want to get the vaccine, we're all for it. We support you. What we don't support is giving up control and autonomy over our bodies and over our kids, because once we give it up, we're not getting back. And, to all the people like Lainey who are vaccinated, that, she's fine, she's safe, her kid's not safe. And that's one thing. But if it weren't for her kid, what if on the next one, what if they say, okay, now you got to get a booster every week, are you going to be okay with that? Once we give up this right, the right's gone. What if you're on the other side of the mandate, on the next mandate that comes down the line?
Absolutely. And that's the point I've tried to make with people. you may support this mandate now, but there may be a mandate one day down the road that you're not going to support. And guess what? Because you supported this mandate today and you allowed the freedoms to be taken away. Now you're also screwed yourself. You just
And
not
you took those rights away from our kids and our
Absolutely.
grandkids. They're not getting them back.
Absolutely. Mags, I wanted to talk to you about Yonkers United, right? Tell me a little bit about the organization that you recently put together with Lainey. Is it Lainey you guys put it together?
Mike started it. Mike
Mike,
started
I'm sorry.
Yonkers United. Yeah.
Okay,
Right,
okay,
Mike? You started it.
It was my idea. I got to say though, there was a teachers group, and it was just a bunch of teachers venting, scared, what's going to happen when this comes down the pipe, what are we going to do, teachers sharing information with each other, some of the information's out there, and you don't want to believe it, and then there was other information that was just, sound scientific information that you're looking at it and going, well, yeah, okay, this makes sense. What are they doing? And from there, we realized that teachers weren't enough, and we needed the city. Our union was never good at connecting with the police and the fire, DPW. I don't know why, but I know a lot of guys in those departments, and they're all good guys, and they're going to go through the same thing we're going to go through. And I was like, why aren't we all united together? We need to be together. This whole city, we can collectively, if this doesn't go the right way, we can collectively shut the city down. That's not what we want.
Absolutely.
That's what nobody wants. But, the reality is, some people don't realize that they're on the wrong side of history.
Absolutely.
You can't take people's freedoms away. We spent hundreds of years giving individuals different rights, bringing everybody. I'd have to say we're in an age where everybody's as equal as they've ever been. Not everybody's equal. We're still working towards that goal, but we've come so far. Now we're going to go backwards by separating people, segregating them, making certain people the bad guy and certain people the good guy. And we're just going backwards.
Absolutely. I agree. And Mike, I wanted to just ask you about the teachers union. Tell me a little bit about the teachers union here in Yonkers. What's been their response? How have they been handling these mandates? What's it been like between the teachers, the staff, and the unions on this issue?
No, we've tried, the end of the summer, we went as a group to the union and we said, we're not really getting a response. Let's talk to them. Let's see what they have to say. And, we all sat there and we asked our questions. And, we got some information that made some people feel a little bit better. And then all of a sudden it seemed that there was a disconnect. And, this is our union. They have 2 children, not 1. And they're supposed to side with everybody, we're their teachers. And it seemed to be that there was a bias there. And even though they said we're not for the mandates and,
Mike, I'm sorry. Can you hear me? I think I lost you there, Mike.
Could you hear me?
Yeah, now yeah.
Okay. So they basically, it was like, we're against mandating anything. We don't want mandates for anybody. We've been out there. We're strong in stating that we don't want mandates for teachers, staff, students. But, if the state brings it down, if the governor states it, there's nothing we can do. And those weren't their exact words, but that seemed to be the idea they were putting across to us. And that just wasn't good enough. And that's why we decided, well, you know what? We got to keep fighting, because we can't roll over and say, oh, well, union doesn't want to support us. So, whatever happens, happens. It's just not an option.
Now, you guys formed Yonkers United, right? And so tell me a little bit about what Yonkers United intends to do. What are some of the plans you guys have? Are you going to be putting together rallies, protests? Give me a little bit of information. And also for those who are watching or will watch later, where they may be able to join you or get together with you, meet with you, and participate in some of these events and rallies that you plan on having.
Okay, well, we're trying to keep things as peaceful as possible.
Absolutely.
Because the last thing you ever want to be is made out to be the enemy.
Right.
You know, this isn't a good guy, bad guy kind of thing. This is people trying to live, you know, life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness. This is what everybody's, you know, trying to achieve. And sometimes by rallies, people get angry and things go wrong. And it's, you know, the media loves that. So we've been trying to keep it to, you know, let's go to board meetings. Let's build our people. Let's know who's behind us. So this way, when we have to, when we're pushed in a corner, we can basically say, hey, you know what, everybody? It's time. And we're all going to get together and we're all going to show you this is our city. Yonkers is our city. We are the workers. We are the firemen that fight the fires. We are the police that keep the peace.
That's
We
right.
are the sanitation workers that keep the streets clean. We're the teachers that teach these children. We're the parents that are you know, keeping our kids off the street and showing them values. And, you know, we all need to get together because it's wrong. It's straight out wrong. We're not against vaccines. We're not against masks. We're for choice. If you choose to wear a mask, you choose to send your kids to school with a mask, send them. If you don't want to and you feel it's suffocating your child, well, you know what? I'm sure you did the research and it shouldn't be. If that mask protects the other child, then why should the child next to that child be wearing the mask if they're protected by the mask they're wearing? This is where we're having this big discrepancy. So that's what Yonkers United is. Yonkers United is, it's growing daily. You know, and even more people that are vaccinated. Look, Lainey made it, you know, clear. She's vaccinated. And when she told us, she was like, you know, guys, I want you to know I'm vaccinated. You know, that's perfect because none of us are against the vaccine.
Right.
You know, we have our own personal feelings for it. But we
It's
just
not like
want
the
people that are,
unvaccinated are discriminating, right? We're not the ones discriminating.
yeah, we're not going to discriminate. I'm not going to discriminate against somebody with a mask or somebody who's vaccinated. Just want people to understand you have a freedom. You live in America.
Right.
You live in America. We fought for these freedoms for years and years and years, and we can't snap our fingers and have them all taken away.
Mm.
Okay.
It was funny, Freddie. It was funny
Lainey.
the day that I was sending them all messages, and I was like, "Oh, hey guys, I feel like it's necessary that I tell you something. I'm vaccinated." It's like it was a bad thing. I'm like, I feel like I should tell you guys something.
Yeah, and it's become that. Even if you know, like being unvaccinated, it's almost like you know, you don't want to tell someone, like, you know, you're telling them something that's, you know, you're gonna get crucified for, right? It's almost like smoking cigarettes nowadays. I occasionally smoke. I have a bad habit, but I am scared to pull out a cigarette nowadays because it's so taboo and looked down on. And it feels like that's what being unvaccinated is like. You know, it's
Or
like now
being
you're
vaccinated. Sometimes you feel like that if you're vaccinated, you know? I mean, it's just kind of, I don't know, whatever.
and that just
my
goes to
point,
show the division, right?
right.
That
I
this
mean, my
country would
point
have.
is that even though I'm vaccinated, I'm with these guys, you know, and we're going to go out there and we're going to do what we have to do to kind of raise awareness to the fact that nobody should be mandated to do anything that they don't want to do. I mean, it's all about freedom, like Mike said.
Yeah. So that's kind of our first like order of business is
right.
talking about it. You know, I
Yeah.
know women intimately, and they kind of are afraid and whisper to me that their husband's getting fired from the city. You know, like it's so taboo
Really?
to even speak about
Wow.
it. So first of all, just talking
Hold
about
on one
it.
second, Max. I just want to just kind of repeat what you just said. You're saying that some women have come to you and confided in you and told you that their husbands are getting fired from the city, but they don't want to speak on it. They don't want to let it be known because why?
Yeah, because it's just, but I think, so that's what I'm saying. I think the first thing that we have to do is undo the crazy division that has been created in the past 2 years, you know, with everything that's been going on and literally keeping people apart, and still literally with the face mask, keeping people apart, like just trying to undo some of that and be like, listen, we're in this together, guys. Like, this is all of us, you know? I'm not worried about my kid getting the vaccine. I'm not worried about homeschooling my kid. I'm fighting because this is for all of us. This is our freedom. This is our country. And what it's looking like it's turning into is not a good. So first of all, we need to come back together. I think that's the first, I don't know, Mike, I'm sure you agree, but like, that's the first order of business is, guys, let's first of all talk about this. It's okay to say how you feel, whether or not you agree with it one way or the other, whatever side of you're on, it's fine. You know, like, let's talk about it and not ostracize people who have a different decision, you know?
Right. Absolutely. And anyone want to add to that? Mike, Elaney?
Yeah. That people need to see that, you know, we're not supposed to be fighting each other on this. We're supposed to be looking at what the road ahead is. And you're vaccinated, I'm not, it doesn't matter. You're vaccinated, you're safe, right? You know, if I'm not vaccinated, you know, maybe you think I'm not safe, but none of this matters, because 5 years down the road, you're going to be losing other freedoms that you're not ready to lose. And every single person, that's why if the union said, hey, you know, this is really wrong, don't worry. All our teachers are going to be on board. If one of us gets fired, everybody goes out. That's the way it used to be. But they're not doing that now because they say the rules don't apply to that. So it's more division from within.
Yeah.
And we need to show everybody that, you know, if you're my next door neighbor and you're vaccinated and I'm not, you know, I don't hold anything against you. You shouldn't hold anything against me.
Right.
Let's fight for what we need to fight for. So this way we have a future.
I agree. And I just want to read a comment here again by Paula. This isn't about the vaccine. It's about being able to choose whether or not to be vaccinated. And I think that's a great point. Forget the vaccine. Let's throw that out of the way here, right? It's about our freedoms, our freedom of choice, and the freedom to say, no, I don't want the vaccine, or yes, I want the vaccine, and it not affect how you move forward in life. It doesn't affect your job. It doesn't affect your kids. And I think that's what's so important here. And Mike, I like what you were just saying. We have to get back together, and all of you for that matter. We have to come back together. We have to have unity, and that's what we need to work on first. And that your neighbor is not vaccinated or is vaccinated, you don't care. I'm not concerned. I'm not scared. I'm not vaccinated. Neither are my kids. I should be very concerned, right? Because we're not protected, and I'm not, and I'm okay with that. You're still going to have some people that are just very adamant, right? Nope. I actually had a woman who just was a very nice lady, and she became this mean person to me, very insulting. I couldn't believe this is who she was. We had lunch together and everything, but because I chose not to vaccinate myself, I was this bad, horrible human being now, all of a sudden, after she said such great things about me. So we have to change that. And how do we change that, Mike? How do we change that, Lainey? How do we change that, Mags?
Well, I think to your point, first of all, we have to have compassion for those people that get raving crazy about, what do you mean you're not vaccinated? They've been conditioned into fear, right? Like that's, if you're watching the news, if you watch the news every day, you're being told that you should be petrified of this for your life, and you're being told that the unvaccinated are putting your life in danger every day, right? So we have to first, if we want compassion, we have to give it, right?
Right. I agree. Mike or Lainey, you want to add to that?
No, I agree, but you know, I'm kind of different. Sometimes I just tell people I'm unvaccinated just to start an argument, you know, and see what they have to say.
Well, I lie and I say I am vaccinated all the time. I mean,
no, but anyway, on a serious note, I did hear today that there are 2,000 New York City police officers, NYPD, 2,000 that were unvaccinated and that are going to lose their jobs on the 29th. As of today, 200 out of those 2,000 have gotten vaccinated since the whole mandate came out. When was it, last week or 2 weeks ago?
Right.
So we're going to lose 1,800 cops.
Absolutely. And
on
that's
Friday.
Dangerous. That's dangerous.
Yeah, it's very dangerous. And then there was also something about FDNY went to go, I don't know, they were rescuing, they had a building fire to go to today, and some of the firefighters got damaged. They got hurt, so they had to close down the whole firehouse. So, I mean, what are we going to do if we lose all fire department and the police department? I mean, it's insane. I don't understand the logic behind it.
Well, like I was mentioning to you earlier when we were discussing this, it seems like we have the essential workers, medical staff, the hospital workers who are laid off, and school staff in some states, some cities like New York City. You have the military where they forced them to either get vaccinated or they were going to be discharged without their benefits. And now we have essential work or first responders, police officers who are going to be fired. What it is, it's a dismantling of our infrastructure. They're breaking this country apart little by little. How are you going to expect that this country remains safe if we have no firemen, we have no police, we have no healthcare workers, we have no teachers anymore? I mean, what's going to happen, and how are they allowing this to just continue? I mean, this would never have been okay before, right?
Nope.
I mean, and I just don't know, and people have to understand, and I just want everyone that's watching and going to watch understand that they are breaking down this country by dismantling it one piece at a time. Healthcare, our security, our military, right? Our educational system, medical system, healthcare. So that's dangerous. That's very dangerous. I want to just give you guys an opportunity to one at a time. I'll go through and just give you an opportunity to say, if there's anything that you want to say that you haven't said, get your message across. Maybe toward the end, just after we're done with that, you can maybe give some events or anything that's going on with Yonkers United. But I just want to give you an opportunity just to say your final piece, say what it is that you haven't said and want to say, and I'll start with you, Lainey.
Okay. I guess we started an Instagram page, which a lot of people know about. It's Yonkers United 2021. If you can go ahead and join that page, we're growing every day. I think we're up to 370 followers since Thursday.
That's quick.
So we're really, and we're starting to come together with other districts. So it's not just Yonkers. We're actually talking to other districts in Westchester County to try and help them and support them as well. They've asked us to attend their board meetings or help them in their fight along with what we're trying to fight for. So we're helping other districts as well. So it's not just Yonkers. So if you're not in Yonkers, doesn't matter. You can just, contact us on Instagram, send us messages, and, we're just going to keep fighting until we see something different. The next board meeting for Yonkers is November 17th, and we will be there 5:30-ish, unless they try and change the time again. But I think that we're just going to continually go back until we see some sort of a change or an answer or something. I do believe that we're planning on maybe some sort of a rally or a get together by City Hall or the Board of Education at some point. I'm just not sure when. And that's it. I mean, like I said, Yonkers United 2021 on Instagram or Yonkers United 2021 at gmail.com.
Great. And I was just going to ask you about the email. So thank you for saying that. I appreciate that, Lainey. And Mags, is there anything you'd like to say before we close up here at the podcast tonight?
No, I'm just going to shout out. We connected with a couple, like Lainey said, we connected with a couple other towns in the area. Harrison is calling for on Thursday, November 4th at 5:30 up at the Kensico Dam. It's not a protest. It's like what we were talking about. It's let's come together. Let's figure out how to deal with this. So that's Thursday, November 4th, 5:30 at the Kensico Dam. And Harrison's page is Harrison_for_medical_freedom.
I think that's great. I think that's great that other towns, municipalities, districts are starting to reach out to you guys, and you're forming a much bigger group, and it's only going to grow, I would imagine. I think that's awesome. And finally, Mike, if you could, just leave us with some stuff, anything you want to say there. Go ahead. I'm sorry, I can't hear you, Mike.
Sorry.
There you go.
Okay. Yonkers United, please join. We need this whole city, this whole county, the whole state to join in, because the more people that we have, the better off everybody's going to be in the long run. If you can't see it now, jump in, look at what's being said, stay in the background. And if you don't like it and you don't agree with it, you can always just, drop out. But when you start realizing that this is not about vaccines, this is not about masks, this is not about, anything else but where we're going as people. And we've seen, if history repeats itself, this is going to be very ugly down the road. And, we all want to be on the right side of history. We're just fighting for freedom. We just want people to understand that, there's no bias here. There's absolutely no bias. No matter what department you're in, no matter whether you're vaxxed, non-vaxxed, we have room for you. We just want everybody to stand up for freedom. That's it. Join Yonkers United 2021 Instagram, please.
Perfect. And the unvaccinated do not discriminate. We are equal opportunity friendly people. I don't know what you would call it. Really quick, I do want to go I just want to acknowledge those that were commenting. They things, and I just want to kind of go through those really quick and just acknowledge folks that were here. Louis Sanchez, he waved hello. He wanted to acknowledge he was in here. I spoke with Lou regarding the lack of local labor, the use of local labor in the developments going on. So again, it's all about Yonkers and the people of Yonkers and fighting for Yonkers, Westchester County. Lauren Cater says, God bless our teachers. Yes, God bless our teachers, especially at this time and what we're going through now. Mike, thank you for showing up here, man. It's very brave of you. I know a lot of people wouldn't do it. They're scared, losing their job, maybe retaliation, something like that. But, I appreciate you coming on. Hold on one second, Mike. I just go ahead.
Sorry.
No, I just muted you because of the feedback, but go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, it's really a great district. And I have to say, this is nothing against the Yonkers public school system. We have amazing administrators. We have amazing teachers. I've seen so much great stuff. Our building, I'm a huge fan of Yonkers Montessori Academy, not just because I go there. I mean, not because I teach there, but, my kids go there. It's such a family-friendly building. We're not disputing the district. We have a great school system. It's just where it seems to be going that we have a problem with. So, to me, it's not brave. To me, it's, I am Yonkers Public Schools.
Right. Well, some might say you're brave. I'm doing my podcast. I've, people whisper, a lot of different people whisper different things in my ears. It is what it is. I'm going to do what I'm going to do. But, and we have to address the school board, right? We have to address the Yonkers Public School District because ultimately they're the ones that are implementing this, right? They can say no, they can say yes. They have the power here, and they're the ones that we need to be directing our comments, our concerns, and our, voicing our opinions to. So how do we, and again, I don't disagree with you. Look, my wife is working, is in the district also. I don't disagree. Yonkers is great. And I, from what I've heard, it has improved. It's been doing a lot better in recent years. And it still has some work to do. But this is about the district. It's about the school board. It's about those who are the policy makers and within the district. And this is a policy that they've implemented and they need to change, right? So how do we get that change to happen? Because, how do we do it? How do we make it change? How do we end the mandates when it's up to the school board to do so? I'm asking Mike, or whoever wants to take it. Oh, go ahead.
I just think that, listen, it's not going to come down to we either win or we lose. I think it's the amount of, noise that we make is going to determine exactly what happens. Listen, they're going to make their decision one way or another. Right. I mean, it's probably going to work in our negative, but I mean, who knows? But I think that the more noise that we make and the louder that we get, they're gonna contemplate what they're doing. They may, decide that maybe they're not making the right decision.
I agree with that, and I think we need to continue making that noise. So again, I support you guys. Just want to finish going up through the comments here because you got a lot of great comments. I think you guys should hear some of the stuff that people are saying.
Oh, one more
Yeah,
thing.
go ahead,
Sorry.
Lady. Sure.
James Nolan for Westchester, District 15, when you go to vote on next Tuesday.
I had Jimmy not too long ago. Jimmy's a great guy. I talk with from time to time. I've seen him do a lot of stuff in the community, and I respect Jimmy because he is showing improving. And so I just want to say that since you mentioned Jimmy, not to make this about the elections coming up November 3rd. Amanda Ortiz. Well, Jody Vasquez is actually my cousin. I got a lot of cousins. Well said. She liked what you guys had to say. Mike, she loved the speech. Amanda Ortez, wow, thank you, Mike. Coming from a special needs mom. Carolyn, Elizabeth Marie, this is wonderful. A wonderful panel of parents, teachers. Thank you for speaking up for our children. Jackie Amato, God bless you, Mike. Keep fighting for what's right. Carolyn again. What about the socialization, right? Did we touch on that, Mike? Socialization, you're in the school with the children, the mask wearing. How's that affected their socialization?
Yeah, it's destroyed it. Completely destroyed it. There's the socialization. I mean, I see so much anger, and I think it's because, kids can't see. You don't see an expression on a kid's face.
Right.
So somebody can make a comment. It's almost like a text. You can't.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's like a text.
Yeah, you can't read what's behind a text. Right. And we've gotten to the point where kids can't read what's behind the mask. So one kid will be sitting in a room and they'll say something like, I like your shoes, and it comes out to be something sarcastic because the kids can't read the face. Right. And the other kid's being genuine, and I've seen it so many times. So the masks are really, really destroying that whole socialization. If you look at the little ones, because we're a pre-K through 12 school, and I used to love watching them. My son's still on the younger side, and he would walk over with his classmates, and they're flailing their arms in the air, and they're twirling, and all that's gone. They're like zombies. They're walking like behind each other. They're waving instead of talking to you as you go by. And it's heartbreaking. That's not the way kids are supposed to go to school.
Yeah.
We're losing all the positive effects that come along with smiling and laughing and seeing people smile and laugh. I used to ask my son when he got out of school, I used to ask him, who did you see smile today? And I asked him that the other day, and he said, no one. Like,
it's true. How could he?
And that's something that they've saying it's like taking our soul, right? It's this thing is taking away our souls, our humanity, who we are. We're becoming very robotic, right? Having no a very flat affect on our face expressions, and just really being just separate from each other, right? And not having that interaction, that engagement, that connection that we humans seek just naturally, right? I believe we're creatures who love to be, I'm a person that loves to be in groups and around a lot of people.
And it's healing. We know it's healing.
Absolutely, and comforting, and it makes you feel safe and secure, and all that stuff that comes with being in groups. Paul, I think that I read the message. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. This is wrong in so many ways. If we don't stand strong, our freedom will be lost on so many levels. Jackie Amato, thank you all. Carolyn, yes to everything you guys are saying. Jackie Amato, again, that's the plan. History is repeating itself, and I believe I heard one of you mention that. Jody Vasquez agrees. Jackie Amato, amen. Let me see, Paula, if this isn't about the vaccine again, yes, this is not about the vaccine. I agree. This is about our freedom. Carolyn, that is perfect because it reinforces the fact that it is a choice. Freedom. That was a comment to something that was said earlier. That's how it should be, Lainey. Freedom of choice. That's right. My kids are homeschooled, and this has zero effect on me. I am still here to fight. And I think some of you mentioned that even though you don't have this, Lainey, you're saying you're vaccinated, but you're still here for the fight for freedom of choice. You agree with those who are not vaccinated. They should have that choice, right? And they want us to crumble, then martial law takes over. Yeah, that's where we're going all the way into there. This is for our children's future. Paula, we are behind you 100%. And I see a lot of supporting comments, and that's great. That's great. And like you were saying, you need everyone to come together. Amanda Ortiz, thank you guys. Crystal Da Vinci, give a bunch of hearts. She loves it. Carolyn, thank you so much. Tina, hey, she has the same last name as you, Mike. Do you know her?
Yeah. I wonder where she is.
Thank you. She's saying thank you to everyone. Like my wife, when she makes a comment too, I like to put her up on there as well. And I'm assuming she's your wife, could be a sister. Right? Jackie
No, it's my
Amato,
wife.
that's your wife.
She
And
was prepping me for this whole thing.
yeah,
You know, make sure you sit right, make sure she's the behind the scenes. She's the guy in the chair.
You know, it's funny. I was thinking about doing a segment on the podcast called "I Can't Take My Husband Anywhere with Me" because, right? And then you have people just kind of write in and give different funny things. Like I went to pumpkin picking over the weekend with my wife, and they did this whole colonial scene. And one of the guys had a can of what looked like it was beer. So I said, "Oh, they had cans of beer back then," and I think he got offended by that. And he just like, no, it's not beer. And then they try to explain to me, well, the water wasn't good, so they had to drink beer. I was just joking. My wife is like, get over here. Come on, let's go. What's wrong with you?
Yeah, we've all been there.
Yeah, that's funny. This is the devil at work. I hope people hear this last part. This is heartbreaking. It is. And, those who have religious beliefs and have strong faith in God, this is the mark of the beast, right? The 666, right? But we want to keep it to this realm because in going there can just make people think that these guys are a bunch of nuts, and that's not what we want.
That's why you got to try and keep it grounded.
Right.
I do have something for everybody that's watching.
Sure, go ahead.
So people, when they tell me, like, I have my parents like really, really big on, like, you got to wear your mask, you go out there in public, you don't know what you're going to get. And I've told them, if there's no seal, you're not keeping anything in or out. So, my wife was always on the fence about it. She thinks it helps a little bit. So I came into the living room one day with her mask and a bottle of water. And I held the mask between two fingers and I poured the water into the mask. And sure enough, the water went straight through. Now, these are big water droplets. And you're thinking about bacteria, even if they're contained in water droplets, when you sneeze and when you think about the pressure you're pushing them through. So any parent that's watching this right now, do your own little science experiment. Some masks are better than others, but we're buying things on Etsy and off Amazon coming from China, and all these masks that they have no regulations.
Right.
You're just putting a piece of cloth over a kid's face and saying, well, this is going to protect him. If you really want to protect your child, go buy an N95 mask. And you have to buy tons of them because after a couple of days, they're no good anymore. But they will protect you. None of these other masks will. So do the water test. I'm a science teacher. I spent years teaching my kids, doing experiments with them. And I mean, it's the simplest thing in the world.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for that.
If it drips through, guess what? It's not effective.
Right. And they're coming from China. What if they're being, isn't that where the virus came from originally? So we have to be careful with that. Yes. Really quick, I'll give you one point that a virologist made, very well credentialed man, professor and all that good stuff, scientist. He said, there are countries, right, before this pandemic, there are countries in the world that if you were going there, you would have to get a vaccination because of the health risks that country offered to those who were coming from there, not from there, who were visiting there maybe the first time, right? So you would go to your doctor and you say, hey, I'm going to such and such place, and because of that, I have to get this vaccine, and he would or she would administer that vaccination. And then you hop on the plane and then you go over there. Nobody had an issue with that. They weren't scared after getting that vaccination that once they got there, they would get the whatever virus or whatever it was they were protecting themselves with. They weren't scared. But did they know that everyone in the entire country was vaccinated? Right? So they were going to a country where you don't know if the first person, when you get off that plane, you don't know if that person's vaccinated, right?
Yeah.
But you are, because you're protecting yourself from whatever you're concerned with getting there. But you didn't concern yourself with making sure that everyone in that country or that you were going to come into contact with were vaccinated, right? You felt 100% sure. So it doesn't make sense that they require everyone to get vaccinated, right? Why do you need to be protected from me if you're vaccinated?
Right. Since when do we measure the effectiveness of a product based on the people who didn't get it? Like what?
Right.
What's the
Exactly.
point of taking it if you still have to be concerned with getting it, and now you're going to need booster shots and so forth and so forth. So it's just crazy. I just again, I think if anything else here, 2 points, people, freedom of choice. That is the most important thing here. We're losing our freedom of choice,
Hmm.
our freedom of choice, and secondly, do your own research, do your homework, dig deep. Forget CNN, forget Fox, even Fox, forget Fox. CNN is actually owned by the same people that own Moderna and Pfizer. I'm not sure if people aware of that. By the way, one last thing, I have to mention this. There is fetal tissue in the vaccines.
Hmm.
Just so people who are not aware of that, they're aborted babies, and I like to say it that way, just to give maximum effect. They're aborted babies in the vaccines. So think about that when you going to get a vaccine if you haven't gotten it already. Thank you, folks, for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. I appreciate what you guys are doing.
Thank
There
you.
seems to be a lot of people. No, you're welcome. There seems to be a lot of people that appreciate what you guys are doing. Don't want you to stop. I don't want you guys to stop. And please let me know however I can support you guys, continue to support you guys, join you at any events that you're going to be holding, anything that you guys are doing. The next meeting, I want to be there. We should announce it. I want to announce it also. I want to get as many people there that have the same concerns to be there. So please just let me know. Keep me informed. Anything that you guys are going to be doing, Yonkers United, I definitely want to be involved, and I want to know about it, and I want to share that information for you.
Thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. Take care and have a good night. Enjoy the rest of your week. I appreciate you
You
coming
too.
on. Take
Bye,
care.
guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye.
That was a great show. That was a great show. I had great people on. I had great guests. It went longer than I normally go, an hour and 35 minutes. That's probably the longest show or interview that I've had since starting a podcast. But it's a very important topic that we talked about tonight. It concerns all of us, one way or another. Whether you have a student or a child that goes to the Yonkers Public School or you are a staff member, it concerns all of us. Why? Because the overall theme here is freedom of choice. Freedom of choice. It may not be affecting you now because you don't have a child in the school and you're not a school staff. But eventually, once you start to give up your freedoms little by little, there's going to come the day when there's going to be something that you love, that you want, and you're going to not want to give it up, but you will have to, because we got to a point now where if it's deemed unnecessary or we need to take it away, and you don't need that right, they're going to come and take that right away from you, and it's too late. It's nothing you can do. That's the way we've been conditioned. So this is about freedom of choice. This is about freedom of choice. This is not a protest. This is not a fight or dispute or going to some kind of war with the Yonkers Public School District. Not at all. Not at all. And I'm sure that parents, teachers, other staff, and anyone involved in this and feel strongly about this is looking to collaborate, to talk with, to work out a resolution that serves the interest of everyone at some point or in some capacity, right? This is about the people in the city of Yonkers. This is about our freedom of choice. This is about everyone having that right to say yes or no and not be forced to lose their job, income that they rely on to pay bills. You don't know if they have a family, kids at home that rely on mom or dad bringing home that income so they can keep a roof over their head, food on the table, clothes on their backs. And because you're scared, you're okay with seeing a family become homeless simply because you have an unrational fear. One that if you went and did the study or your research yourself, you would come to realize is unwarranted. You've been lied to. You've been bamboozled by those that have an interest in lying to you and fooling you. Whenever money is involved, there's always going to be an interest against what's right, because money is the root of all evil. And as one of my favorite books once said, absolute power corrupts absolutely. I love the book Animal Farm. If you haven't read it, you should go read it. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered, and I will see you again soon. Take care. Have a good night. Say no to mandates.
You're watching Basement Politics with my dad, Freddie Vasquez.
Thank you for watching Basement Politics with my husband, Freddie Vasquez.
Girl, I love you. Just love that voice. Have a good night. Enjoy your week.